him.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And everybody had their Vic story, right? I have. Well, my Vic story, they started early, even before we got married. But I'll tell you, the first one after we got married. We got married, we went for our dinner, right? So we're all there, and the waiter comes up and fills the wine, you know, Vic's wine glass, like a little bit. He looks at it and he goes, give everybody some. I have a quick story. I worked with Vic at Petrophysical Services, right? And he worked with
that when Vic was still in his 50s?
He was in his 50s. If I let you interrupt now, you'll be doing it all the time. So, Vic, remember Alec Riles? We had a lathe that we wanted to sell, right? And this guy, Alec Riles, worked with Vic. And the first thing he did when they found out he wanted to sell the lathe is he stripped down the lathe. And then Vic says to you know, so I'm taking the bids on the lathe, right? And so Alec comes in and the first bid is for $50, right? And it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And by 9 o'clock the next morning, the second bid, and it's still Alec Riles, and nobody else's bid but him, is $100. So I open up, I go, 100, okay. And then like by 3 o'clock that same afternoon, he comes back and it's like $150. And I'm thinking, Alec's the only one bidding here, you know? And so by the next day, he comes back and the bid is now $200. And so I said, you know, Alec, the bidding is closed and you're the only one who bid, you know, you get it for $200, you know? And he kept saying, Alec kept saying, you know, take out those bids, take those old bids out. So I said, Vic, I said, what happened? And Vic says, well, Alec stole everything worth having on it. So I just kept saying to him, you know, someone else is bidding on it, and I think they've been $140. And I think someone else bid on it, it was like $190. That was wild. Okay. Be your story.
Stop that story.
Well, I was working at PSI too when Vic was still in his 50s.
Oh, come on.
Long time
Still in his 50s. Let's see. So I went past the lab one day and I said, so what's going on? He said, because we were facing layoffs at the time. Everybody was looking around, scrambling for other jobs, and Vic had been looking for other jobs, and one of them, I think, at Accurex, was a possibility. And he said, you know, I think if I get this job, you know, my wife's in France.
Like
in France. My wife is over there in France. And I think when she gets back, here's the thing. She never calls me at work. I don't allow her to call me at work. So I'm just gonna get to the new job. I'm gonna get up every morning. I'm gonna come home. I'm not going to tell her I've got a new job. And you know, in 2 months there's going to be a Christmas party. And I'm just going to take Sandy to the Christmas party. And she's going to look around and say, where's Steve? Where's Tina? And then I'm going to tell her. And I thought this was great. And I told Tina about it. Tina said, wait a minute. And she went over to Vic and said, Vic, don't do that. That's really awful. That's really cruel. And the thing about it was, I told Sandy about it because I knew that this would just be another Vic story. What's new?
Yeah, never tell the women, Vic. Because we can't keep a secret.
She could have cared less.
As long as that check's coming.
In fact, he told me that story about what he was going to do to Sandy. I worked with Vic at Accurex, and he told me that same story. He was really disappointed that Sandy found out he had that job. But this is another layoff story. Everywhere Vic went, it seems he got laid off.
Remind me not to follow you, Vic.
At Accurex, it was December of '88, and we were having a little Christmas luncheon during lunch. And what they did at Accurex is they told everybody right before Christmas not to come back after the holidays.
Oh, good.
And so Dwayne Baker, the general manager at Aerotherm, was coming around and shaking everyone's hand at this Christmas party, and he comes up to Vic, and everybody really liked Dwayne. And comes up to Vic, and he felt really bad about all the, you know, because a lot of people got laid off at once, and he comes up to Vic and says, shakes his hand and says, you know, sorry, Vic, to see you go, you know, have a nice holiday. Vic goes, oh, no problem. He says, I've already got my mattress ready. I just threw it over by the Guadalupe River. I got my space all marked out. And he laughs right at Dwayne, and Dwayne didn't know what to do. He just left.
story much like that. When you first signed up at NASA, remember that one?
No.
You did, well, that would be the Alzheimer's. That happened.
Ah, okay.
Tell your story.
Yeah, I got this job at NASA, and 3 months later, they give you a quick review to see if they made a mistake or not. And then this guy, my foreman, he's looking at this, and he said, well, you're doing great, and just fine, average, and this, and everything. He said, I think you're gonna work out, we'll check you out in another 6 months or something. I said, well, he said, do you have any questions or anything? I said, yeah, I've got one serious problem, that maybe I should tell you about, but it makes me a little nervous to talk about things that I don't know what your reaction is gonna be. And he said, well, you can talk to me, we're private and everything, there's no problem, it won't go beyond these doors. I said, well, I've got Alzheimer's, and I have a hard time remembering things, This guy, blood drained from his face. And I said, how would you deal with something like this, And he's a total shock. I said, well, I've never had anyone with Alzheimer's.
If you're going to tell your own story, then tell one of my favorite big stories, the one about the GE guy. Remember with the one that pissed you off?
That was too many to tell. Are we talking tax?
Remember? Tell that one.
No, I don't want to tell that.
Okay.
It was too long. Maybe Ernie knows about that, because Ernie was working at G. You remember the microphone?
Oh, yes.
In Building G?
Yeah, the seat of doubt.
Yeah.
We had this one guy that issued all the tools, and when you'd take him an old hacksaw blade, he'd look at the teeth, and then you'd get the question, what were you hacksawing? Stainless? Cobalt? All the teeth are missing. Yeah. So, and the guy was just a nightmare, Rosinski.
Yeah, I remember.
Rosinski, So we rigged up what we call the seat of doubt, in this building. That along here, the manager worked in this one office, and one of those fans that turn with the wind, those wind vane things, or whatever, I don't know what they are. And we put a microphone in there with a wire that went to the top of this building, like what, 600 stories
Yeah,
down?
600.
With a loop in that. The other end of the wire went down to the building and down the fan behind this guy's bookshelf. And we watched and waited until they were both in there together. And you released the thing, and the microphone fell down. Following this thing. He couldn't see it because it's laying on the building, so he went up in our building, and looked down. He could see, went down, ducked down there, And it's just a wire going nowhere. The guy, his life was never the same. He retired shortly after that.
True story, huh?
True story.
So he has this person that he says to her, blank, you've got 5 minutes. After 5 minutes are up, I'm hanging up.
I don't even remember
You
that.
don't remember that, huh? I think I've heard that. And as she's talking, he hangs up.
Hey,
You
Jim.
can tell it if it's funny, though.
No,
Go for it.
these are typical big stories. Typical.
Typical Vic story? Well, we hired Vic to captain us. This was early in his sailing days. Captain us out on the bay one day for Jim's bachelor party. We have visual aid. And so we took out on the bay. Early, wasn't it, Vic, when we left?
About 9, yeah.
It was early for the rest of us, and we worked really hard to get under that Golden Gate Bridge. and finally made it. And then on the way back, we decided we had to make it a real bachelor party, so we blew up the blow-up doll. Remember that, Vic? Ran her to the top of the mast. Tied her up there, and the wind was blowing pretty hard that day, and she fell off. And so Vic took it upon himself to chase the blow-up doll around the bay.
All overboard grill.
And it almost was, because
$10
Vic pulled out every maneuver he knew about sailing, and we about lost Kim, I believe. We were home Kim by the ankles. And we never did catch her, though. We almost gassed her, huh, Kim?
Last time we saw that doll, she was floating by the Enterprise.
She was headed for the Enterprise, and we figured that was seal her fate. This is a visual aid. Captain,
This is Captain Vic.
when he was 50s, right?
He was in his 50s. And the first thing I learned about sailing is from Captain Vic. Captain Vic. Okay. So you get to the Golden Gate Bridge, you look up, and you yell, jump. I like it.
You've got all these people on the rail looking down at you going,
Thanks for the visual aid. So that's my big story.
The party hat, the whole deal is on there.
I think one of his children should tell about the time you went to the pound.
dog in the worst way. If there's anything I hate, it's a dog. Well, Ken finally got his dog in the back. But, you know, we went down to the pound, and okay, you
It
know.
was Doug's birthday, and I talked to you two. At least
Yeah.
going to the pound, and we'll look, and maybe they'll find the dog. All right, you know. So we went down to the pound. All four kids.
And you know, and we're looking at all these dogs, and then here was a super beagle, you know? I mean, really a nice dog, you know? Hey, what about this one, Doug, you know? And here's this cur mangy looking thing.
But it was bigger. He wanted a big dog.
And he wanted this, you know? I could not sell this beagle, and the only thing I could do is say, time's up, and try. Out of time.
It's not like the phone, right?
How's your therapy going?
5 minutes, Rick.